Now, the 19th West African Namibian Oil, Gas and Energy Conference is in its second day, aimed at various opportunities both offshore and onshore. Now, the key focus lies heavily on major players, government opportunities and many prospective oil and gas frontiers. So for discussion on the latest developments within the sector, I'm joined by Emmanuel Malunga, the Petroleum Commissioner in Windhoek. Mr. Malunga, thank you so much for joining us. So I suppose from a Namibian perspective right now, what are you hoping to get out of this conference? Because there have been so many oil and gas conferences taking place, this year already, and there is so much excitement around the potential of the oil and gas sector. But from a Namibian standpoint, what is your focus right now?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Obviously, Namibia is becoming a very good conference destination. And the reason is because obviously conference organizers and companies are realizing that Namibia is the next big thing to happen in Africa as far as oil and gas exploration and production is concerned. We're very excited to have the conference here in Windhoek. It shows that we are indeed a new conference destination. We are sort of talking to various international oil companies, national oil companies, service providers and other governments really to learn what has been going on in other African countries on the West African sort of margin. So it presents us obviously with opportunities of networking and so on with other people.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as I know, an oil rig with...
In terms of Namibia, I can touch, it's a very...
Yeah, I was going to talk about the fact that whilst there's a lot of optimism, you have had a slow startup, many consider, because, there's been views, of course, that there's massive amounts of gas that still haven't been tapped into and, of course, potential for discovery of oil. There's issues around not enough rigs, around funding, around logistics. But tell us about some of the challenges in terms of starting up the oil and gas industry in Namibia right now.
Yeah, well, obviously Namibia is still seen as a frontier country, meaning that not much exploration has taken place. But over the last 8 years or so, I think we've really been having an aggressive exploration campaign. From our side as government, we've been able to attract a lot of foreign oil companies, especially the small ones, the small startup companies, that have managed to do initial work and bring in some of the larger companies. So we're at a stage where at the moment there is a considerable drilling campaign going on. As we speak, a well is being drilled by a company called HRT, and then we should have results in the next week or two. Then they will be drilling another 2 to 3 wells in Namibia, and even next year as well there will be another company drilling for oil and gas. So in the next sort of 2 years we'll see another probably six wells being drilled, and that presents us a very good opportunity for actually discovering the oil sort of resources that we believe are in Namibia.
I mean, you believe that
not only
HRT
that, obviously we are at a critical time.
Yeah. Sorry, do continue.
Yeah, apart from that, the Kudu gas field, which was discovered in 1974, is reaching also a critical milestone. A lot of momentum is being gathered. The project is back on track. The upstream and upstream developers have signed several agreements, and the project is basically ongoing, and we expect that the final investment decision will be taken in March 2014. With the first gas delivery expected to be the second half of 2017.
And in terms of funding, because that's estimated at around $1 billion, it would be an 800 megawatt gas to liquids plant. But talk to us about funding of that $1 billion. Where's that coming from? Yeah, obviously the project has 2 components. It's got the downstream component, which will go really on project financing route, where bankers and so on will be heavily involved. But obviously there are things like government guarantees and withholding tax and economic stabilization issues that still need to be resolved. But once the project comes together, then funding will not be a problem. Obviously on the upstream side, it's going to be the companies that are involved on the upstream side will fund the project from their balance sheets. So it's 2 sort of different funding arrangements.
that are in place.
Let's look from the petroleum of Namibian petroleum sector's perspective right now, and how's it going to benefit local players? Because the majority of drilling, when it comes to the oil exploration activities, is taking place under foreign ownership or foreign companies. You talked about HRT, that Brazilian company. So what opportunities are there for local players or African companies to get involved in Namibian oil exploration?
Yes, that's always a difficulty when you are at the beginning stages of an exploration drive, as we are in Namibia at the moment. We are trying our very best under the circumstances to make sure that obviously Namibians are employed whenever possible. The Namibian services are used by these companies, but because it's such a starting industry, it's difficult to get that. But what we have managed to do from government point of view is to make sure that Namibian companies have increasingly been part of the equity of a lot of these blocks. And I think we can proudly say that without a formal BE policy being in place, we've managed to make sure that a lot of Namibians are empowered, have been empowered in oil and gas exploration in Namibia.